There are houses that feel wrong long before anything actually happens, not because of their appearance or age, but because of an invisible pressure in the air, a quiet sensation that something inside is aware of you, listening, waiting, and refusing to remain forgotten. In the winter of 2015, the Bretzius family moved into an old wooden house in rural Pennsylvania, a structure that had stood silently for nearly a century, its walls aged, its floors hollow, and its price suspiciously low compared to every other home in the area. Mark Bretzius didn't question the price at the time because the house looked structurally sound, and he believed that with some simple renovations, new insulation, and cosmetic repairs, it could become the perfect long-term home for his family. One cold afternoon, while removing a section of drywall in the living room to install modern insulation, Mark noticed that something inside the wall shifted and fell softly onto the floor, producing a dry, fragile sound that immediately felt unnatural and deeply unsettling. When he looked down, he saw the mummified remains of a small animal. Its body completely dried, its skin stretched tightly over its bones, its empty mouth frozen open as if its final moment had been captured and preserved inside the darkness of the wall. His initial shock turned into dread as he slowly realized there were more shapes inside the wall cavity, hidden behind old wooden beams and wrapped carefully in yellowed newspaper that crumbled slightly when he reached inside and pulled one of the bundles into the light. Inside the brittle paper was another animal, this time a bird perfectly preserved by time, its wings folded tightly against its body, its form positioned intentionally rather than randomly, as if someone had placed it there with purpose and precision. As Mark continued inspecting the interior of the wall, he discovered dozens of similar remains, small animals carefully concealed, wrapped, and arranged in a way that suggested this was not the result of natural causes, but something deliberate and disturbingly ritualistic. The smell reached him moments later. Not the smell of normal decay, but something older and more complex, a mixture of mold, dust, and something faintly sweet that seemed permanently embedded into the structure of the house itself. When the police arrived, their initial assumption was that animals had somehow entered the walls and died there over time, but that explanation quickly fell apart when they saw the newspaper wrappings, the careful placement, and the faint carved symbols etched directly into the wooden support beams. A local historian specializing in early Pennsylvania Dutch folklore was called to examine the findings, and his reaction was immediate and deeply concerning because he recognized the patterns, the symbols, and the historical significance of what had been hidden inside the walls. He explained that during the early 20th century, certain ritual practices known as Pow-wow were performed by settlers who believed they could use physical objects, including animal remains, to create protective barriers, spiritual bindings, or containment structures within homes. According to historical records, animals were sometimes sealed inside walls to trap negative forces, prevent something from escaping, or act as permanent guardians against unknown threats that could not be seen but were deeply feared. The newspapers used to wrap the animals dated back to the 1930s and 1940s, which strongly suggested that these rituals had been performed during the original construction of the house, meaning whatever had been placed there had remained undisturbed for nearly a century. Even after the animals were removed and the walls were sealed again, the Bretzius family began noticing subtle but deeply disturbing changes in the atmosphere of the house, starting with a smell that refused to disappear no matter how thoroughly they cleaned or ventilated the rooms. At night, Mark began hearing faint sounds inside the walls, not scratching or movement like animals, but something softer and more ambiguous, resembling dry fabric shifting slowly or faint breathing occurring just beyond the visible surface. His sleep became increasingly fragmented, interrupted by moments of sudden awareness where he felt as though something inside the house was not only present, but actively aware of him and waiting for him to notice it. One night, he woke suddenly to the unmistakable sound of whispering coming from the wall beside his bed, quiet but real. Too controlled and deliberate to be dismissed as imagination or environmental noise. The whisper stopped immediately when he turned on the light, leaving only silence behind. But the psychological damage had already been done because Mark knew with certainty that the sound had come from inside the wall itself. Historical research later revealed that one of the original residents of the house was a woman, known locally for practicing protective and binding rituals, someone neighbors avoided. Someone believed to have sealed something inside the structure of the home. No official records ever explained what she was trying to protect the house from, or what she may have been trying to keep contained within its walls, but the physical evidence remained undeniable. Despite removing every animal and repairing every wall, the feeling of being watched never disappeared, the smell never faded, and the sounds never fully stopped. Eventually, the Bretzius family made the decision to leave the house permanently, not because of visible danger, but because of the overwhelming psychological certainty that something inside the structure had been disturbed and was no longer contained. Today, the house still stands, quiet and empty, its walls sealed once again, its secrets hidden behind layers of wood and silence. Neighbors say that sometimes, late at night, faint sounds can still be heard from inside. Not loud, not violent, just soft, dry whispering from within the walls.